So, I mean, how long has it now been since the breakup? How long has it been for you?
Well, we had the official breakup talk in early May of 2019, and then she moved out August 5th, 2019. So we're just past the 1 year mark where I haven't had any communication with her. And she never did reach out to me. I think I did mention in some of my posts that we did have an agreement for me to forward some of her mail and stuff. So I've mailed stuff to her twice. I think the first time I just put in a very short note. I wasn't fishing for a response or anything, and she never replied. And a bunch of items that I'd found around the house, plus some important mail, including taxes and that. And then I found a couple of hard drives that I forgot about that had a whole bunch of really old modeling photos, like going back to 2006. So, I mean, it was her personal property, so I threw that into a padded envelope with no note this time. Just that was like a couple of months ago.
I think that's really, really important. You've said what you've said there, because some people take no contact as absolutely literal, but you have to use your common sense, and you have to be respectful, and you have to be mature about things, because it's not going to do you any favors, not only just with your ex, but just with the wider community, if it ever kind of came out. If you take no contact literally, you know, and don't do something respectful, such as posting on important personal artifacts or legal things or bills, you know, that is not going to help you. So I think, you know, you've done really well there, Trevor, because it is hard. It is hard to kind of be that bigger person, but you've really, really done that. You've done no contact fantastically, but you've also used your common sense, and you've also kind of thought, well, you know, in this instance, I've got personal belongings, so to speak, of my exes. I've also got, you know, say bills or legal things, and they need to be sent. So I always say, if there's an emergency, and, you know, this counts as an emergency in some respects, because it's serious things, they need to get to your ex. But what you did brilliantly was you kept it on point. Like, some people might have tried to use this as an opportunity to kind of try to get in there and quiz their ex, and that's never going to help you. You've been polite, you've been respectful, you've been professional, and you've just sent them on. The first lot you sent with a little note. The second lot didn't need a note, you know. I think you've done really, really well as you could. So how do you actually feel now, a year of no contact?
I felt I was starting to feel a lot better at 6-7 months, and then I think the lockdowns and that were just kind of a setback, and it just kind of got me back into that, a bit of anxiety and whatnot. And then, I don't know, it's something strange. I don't know why, but when our first anniversary passed, or her moving, it just flipped a switch, and I just seemed to be completely, you know, have let go. So, I mean, I guess everybody goes at their own pace, but I have heard some people take up to a year. So, and then I think the lockdowns did exacerbate things. But yeah, I would say.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, yeah, the lockdown in particular has really caused some emotional turmoil. So, you know, for your instance, what I would suggest happened is, but firstly, the lockdown, you know, means exactly what it says. You know, everybody was locked down, and it enabled us to have more thinking time. So the first difficulty is that people have more thinking time. They have more time to dwell on the past, on the things that they wish had been, etc., etc. Additionally, the fact that we're going through a global pandemic pulls on our heartstrings, because we don't want people who we knew, who we know, who we loved, who we once loved. We don't want them to be hurt. And when this pandemic is going on, there is that natural thought process of, I wonder what is happening, you know, to people from my past. So I think with yourself, Trevor, you was doing really, really well. And then the pandemic happened, the lockdown happened. You had a lot of time to think, and it no doubt crossed your mind wondering how she was getting on. And that would have really kind of pulled on you and hurt more. You've now moved through, I mean, obviously, at the time of recording this podcast, we are still very much in the global pandemic. But in regards to yourself and you know, in your journey, we've got out of the most severe lockdown, at least at this moment, and we are now moving forward. And you've now gone past this anniversary of the breakup. And I think that's been quite poignant for you. Once people get past a year, they have of course gone past every single anniversary. So Christmas, New Year, birthdays, all of these anniversaries have gone. So basically every single pain point, every single day that is going to cause a lot of upset, you've already experienced at least once. So you do feel stronger going into the second year. Now, I'm certainly not trying to get you to clock watch, and I definitely don't want you to stand still. But what I would say is I have heard of numerous instances of where dumpers out of the blue have contacted dumpees years later, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And anecdotally, I've heard some crazy, crazy stories, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, even 50 years. Now, I can't vouch for those latter ones, but that is what I've been told. So, although I'm not suggesting that you should be waiting for her, absolutely not. You need to be moving forward with your life. We only have one life. You need to live it, and you need to experience and make new connections. What I would say, though, is that if she did contact you one day, it wouldn't surprise me. As crazy as that might sound, but I don't suggest you wait for it. I really want you to really push forward and try to make new connections.
Yeah, I think mentally, I do realize that people reach out, way down the road. But yeah, I think that was the one thing that flipped for me was I just don't have any expectation of her reaching out, and I don't really care anymore. That's the main thing. So but it's good. I mean, there's no emotions have all run off. So if I do hear from her, I can just speak to her I'll be somewhat neutral about it, and there won't be any anger or anxiety or anything. I'll just wish her well and catch up, see what she's been up to.
Yeah.
And that. But I know from my parents, they divorced in 1971, 72, and they ended up hooking up again in the 1990s, so you never know.
It's true. You do never know, and what I think is very important for anybody listening is to understand that whatever you are going through, okay, everybody's breakup is unique to them, but there are some similarity of feelings. And anybody who's listening who is thinking, I'm never going to be able to see a positive day, in front of me, listen to what Trevor's saying. Trevor went through the grind, okay? He has not heard from his ex in a year, and yet he's coming out the other side. He's feeling positive. And look, there is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back. Not everybody will. But the important thing is that you go through self-improvement, you try to become a better version of yourself, and you push forward and you make new connections. And you know what? You can meet somebody even better because you are now a better version of yourself. If you go through self-improvement, then you naturally become more attractive to more people. You have more choice. You can make new connections. And I do think, Trevor, that, you've gone through the most difficult period. You come out that other side, you've gone through that tunnel, you've come out into the light, and I'm really, really excited for you to see what is out there in the future. As soon as this pandemic is something in the past, hopefully everything will be able to be sorted one way or another as we move into 2021. Fingers crossed that the fantastic medical staff around the world will be able to sort something out in some way which will enable life to go back to normal. And then when that happens, whether it's a few months away or whatnot, I really think, Trevor, you are going to go out there into the world and make some fantastic connections. I just want you to believe in that. And I think you do now. I think you do believe in those connections that you can make.
Yeah, and I would say that the pain of the breakup really did lead to a lot of self-reflection, and I did discover a lot about myself, and I kind of analyzed my weaknesses and, negative patterns in relationships. I read a lot of books, listened to a lot of audio books. For me, I think the most impactful book I read was No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover. And I was, his prototypical nice guy that raised by a single mom. And just kind of you grow up with this kind of hole, I think, where you're trying to get female validation. and looking to fill that emptiness in relationships with women. And it kind of tied into some of my outbursts sometimes, where you're being super nice, but it's always kind of with these covert contracts, he calls them, where you're like looking for something in return, but you're not actually telling the other party that you're doing these nice things for them. And then it leads to anger and frustration, and then and then the typical nice guy, quote unquote, has these angry outbursts, and it's like, oh, where did that come from? He's like usually so nice, and then he blew his top. And I read a lot of anger management books, and I am a little more direct with people now, or it's like if I don't want to do something, I'm just like, yeah, I just don't feel like doing that, and it helps, because it's just, rather than doing things that you don't really want to do, and build the resentment building, you just say what you mean and what your feelings are. So for me, that was a great book. Really, when I read it, I was like, man, this guy's like describing so much of my personality to a T. So, and my ex, like, I think her boyfriend before me wasn't like a very good guy, and then so at first she just loved it, because it's like, oh, you're so, you're like the best boyfriend, you do all this stuff, and you do so much for me, and you're so nice, and this and that. But eventually it just kind of flipped around, and then she grew to resent it, and she told me that she felt like I was always seeking her validation, and it was a bit of a turnoff, and that. So that was good. Like, all the reading I did was like, I really learned a lot about myself, and did some therapy for a few months online, and I had one really close friend who was just, really there for me. He would just check in on me every week, and we'd talk, and he just let me, just dump on him until I was worried he was going to get fed up with me, always, talking about my breakup, but finally, kind of got back to normal with, just hanging out and talking about whatever.
And that really kind of leads on to just, us finishing this call. And thank you so much, Trevor, for taking part on it. And it's really wonderful to see the progress you've made as somebody who was really going through that struggle and that grind. And now you are coming out the other side. You're looking forward to the future. Do you have any advice that you might give to anybody who's struggling right now?
Just, keep on your grind, I guess, and definitely no contact is the way to go, because I've read lots of testimonies of people who broke it, and it usually ended very badly for them, and they just ended up getting hurt. And I just think you have to come to the point where you realize that, emotionally, where the dumper's at, like, at least at the time, they don't want to hear from you. So it's just best to just give them their space and not smother them, and let them come to you, and just focus on yourself. And I know at like the early stages, you got so much anxiety, and all you can think about is getting them back to to make that pain go away. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Just keep on. Use the pain as an opportunity to learn about yourself. Identify some of the mistakes you made in your relationship, and just go from there. And if you do hear from your ex, great. And but the day will come where you won't really care anymore, because you just accept that it's like, okay, they've moved on, they don't want me in their life. So yeah, just give them their space. It's what they want. And read, get therapy, take up some hobbies, lean on your friends, make some new friends, and just rebuild your life. It is very painful, because it just kind of upsets your routine, and that person was in your life for a long time. But eventually you just fill in those gaps and build a new routine, and your life goes on. And right now it's a sunny, beautiful day in Vancouver, and I'm looking out at the mountains. So life goes on.
Oh, but thank you so much, Trevor, for speaking with me. It's been wonderful. It's been brilliant. And please keep me updated with what you do in the future. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. And Have a good evening, I guess. There, it's and late.
It is.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much.